Welcome to Quietly Confident Introvert Podcast. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing. And if you're new to the show, welcome and thank you for tuning in. I hope that you're gaining benefit from what I've been sharing so far for those that are subscribed. And I do ask you that you share the podcast with others. This is a podcast that is focused on empowering introverted women in business and leadership to develop quiet confidence, harness their introvert strengths, and develop strategies to align to develop success, a holistic success on their own terms. And today, I want to focus on something that is very vital to all of us, and it's energy. You see, in the world that we live in today, there's a lot of things that are required of us to be able to achieve our goals. And so today I want to talk about how introverts can increase energy levels to succeed in an extroverted world. I am a very action oriented and results oriented coach, what you call a really high achieving, high, highly driven kind of person. And so when people say to me, "Your name is Patience, are you patient?" I tend to laugh and go, uh, well, in my younger years, so the explanation is usually longer. In my younger years, I tended to be very impatient, but as I gotten older, I've become wiser, and I'm learning that patience is truly a virtue. So, but we also know that despite being really somebody that is driven, you have lots of demands on your time, you have work, you have family, you have, for those of us that are either 40 plus, you're going through perimenopause, you're going through menopause, and then you have the introvert challenges, which is what we want to focus on today, and to kind of talk about what do you do as an introvert to be able to address these things. And when you're facing challenges in life, what do you need to focus on? We know that the main key thing, they say that introverts are those that gain their energy by looking inwards, whereas extroverts gain energy by focusing outwards. So another way to put it is extroverts focus on the world of people and introverts focus on the world, on the internal world of themselves. And sometimes you could say it's neither good nor bad, it's just the extent to which those two different focuses affect your life and cause you not to achieve the goals that you want to achieve, or not to be expansive and be in a world where you can benefit from other people and you can be of benefit as well. But the second thing is that we know that for introverts, the main challenge is stimulus. The reason why we're inward focused is because of how stimulus, how being around people, how being around certain things like noise and light affect us. There's another element of being highly sensitive, which introverts or extroverts can be. So, why do we need to manage our energy? Why do we need to focus on stimulus? After all, stimulus is all around us all the time, and it's not something we can control. But the main issue is that introverts tend to struggle with stimulus, which can either be physical, emotional, psychological, and all can affect in different ways. And sometimes when introverts then overexpose themselves to stimulus, what happens is that overstimulation leads to burnout. And I have experienced it. Like I said, I didn't really tune into what it means to be patient, what it means to be quiet until I got older. And the truth is, you get older, you get wiser because you recognize that there's certain things you need to make more effort to do. And so when you don't recognize that on time, or you don't put in the effort, even when you recognize, that is when burnout happens. So I want to share with you what the meaning of burnout is. So burnout triggers an overactivation of the sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for the body's fight or flight response. This leads to increased levels of stress hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline being released into the bloodstream. So when you have challenges with these hormones being released into the bloodstream, you begin to struggle. You begin to need help. You begin to realize that even though energy you have is being sapped, and therefore you need to build it. So you need to pay close attention to maintaining that fine balance. Now, whether you're introverted or extroverted, the truth about it is we all need to find a fine balance. We all need to know what works best for us. So today is all about me sharing what are some of the key things that you can do to maintain balance with your nervous system and energy, whilst also going after those great ambitions, because we are all about going after your ambitions on this show. To be honest, you can't live a life of purpose if you don't have ambition. You can't also find fulfillment if you're not fulfilling, if you're not going after those ambitions. So we want both, and we want the best of both worlds. So here are some things that I have learned on my journey. I share with my clients, I share on my programs, I share in my talks, in my speeches, and I want to share some of them with you just briefly. So the first one is to know your capacity. So the way that someone described it that really made sense to me is like, your capacity can be like you, that internal thermostat. And your internal thermostat determines what drains you and what can energize you. And so understanding the behaviors and the ways that you might sabotage yourself and affect that internal thermostat is key. And you have to be understanding of the fact that your capacity can also be, what can I take, how much can I take before I break, yeah. And there is something about stepping outside of your comfort zone, but I always say that for the introvert, you need to think about the fact that your introversion is actually your comfort zone. So, what you want to do is to stretch your comfort zone. So, that mindset says to you, how much can I take? What is my capacity before I break? What's my internal wiring? Yeah, that can is unchangeable. Because if you are at the core an introvert, that's unchangeable. But what is my capacity? How much can I take before I break? So the first thing is, work on yourself, work on the journey, and your understanding what your capacity is. The second thing is capability. So it's one thing to have capacity, it's another for that capacity to be dormant and you don't know how to use it. So if you never crank up the thermostat, you will not know how much high temperature it can go. So for example, I tend to use as a minimum, I stay in hotel chain. For those who are watching internationally and don't have it, called Premier Inn. I love the standard of that company. Everything is standardized. Now they do make a promise, and in that promise they say, we want to make sure that you have a good night's sleep. So their brand promise and their unique selling proposition is that you get a good night's sleep. They invest a lot of money in that, in terms of the way the room is set up. The curtains are blackout curtains and they are top to bottom. The windows are double glazed so you don't hear any noise. The beds are very comfortable, the pillows are comfortable, sink in nicely. But one of the things they also do is that they make sure that they set the volume of the television in the room. So you can't set the television higher than a certain level. But do you know that the television has the capability to go beyond that level, but they don't set it? They make sure that they set it so that when you come in, that brand promise is maintained. The second thing they also do is, many of them that have air conditioning or heating, they also set the heating in many places, and many other hotels do that. So you can't crank up the heating beyond a certain level, even though it has the capacity to go beyond that. And if you said to them, I'm not comfortable, I'm struggling, they tend to relinquish and do something temporarily. So when you want to think about capability, that's the way you want to think about your capability. Like, what is it that I am capable of doing based on my internal wiring, based on what I have decided for myself? And obviously, that's why we say knowing your strength matters, because that's your capacity. Then using your strength to achieve something, that's your capability. And so being able to measure both your capacity and your capability, those are some of the things I offer my clients in when I do programs with them, group programs, or when I do one-to-ones, because that as your foundation gives you the ability to do the next thing. So the number three is change, adaptability. So you now know what you're capable of. You now know your capacity. The next thing is what you want might be on the other side of fear, might be other side of change. And change does not mean that you totally become somebody else. It just means that you figure out how to adapt. And adaptability can be initiated in different ways. So, what are some of those ways that you can initiate adaptability for yourself? The first one is what's the catalyst that you can introduce? And a catalyst, if you're a scientist, is that product or that thing or that substance that you introduce into something and it will kind of make the thing change to something else, for example. So understanding what catalyst you can use, and I'm not talking about, for me, for example, I know that coffee is a big stimulant for me. So let's use that as an example. Now, some people would say I'll take coffee in the morning and it will make me awake and everything. For me, coffee gives me headaches. For me, coffee can make me more agitated if I take too much. So I won't take that. But that's like a substance. So an event in life can be a catalyst. You can see yourself coming up. So for me, the catalyst for when I took a leap from the corporate space was I lost quite a few people over the years. And I began to think about what's my purpose? What's my legacy? How am I living my life? Am I being more courageous? And that became that the death of loved ones, seeing them not being able to fulfill their own purpose, became a catalyst for me. That event became a catalyst for me to say, I'm going to do something different with my own life. I always have the chance to come back to this same space if I fail. However, right now, this is the catalyst. So, what's your catalyst? Identify that as a catalyst to change your circumstance. The second one is, what's your motivating factor? What motivates you to get out of bed? If you don't know that, know it. For some people, it's money. And I don't knock that. Some people say, oh, I'm not money motivated, and they're trying to be self righteous about it. The truth is, there are a couple of things that are essential in the world: water, air, money, love. Those are really essential. They are essential in the world. You can't get away from it. You need currency to move around in the world. So, what is your motivation? Your motivation might be helping people, but of course, you have to know how you can bump up your motivation and what is the thing that makes you smile, that brings you alive. That is where you need to initiate change to bring that into your life. Then the other thing you've got to recognize is how do you boost your energy so that you can adapt quicker or better? So that might be learning what works, getting rid of big things and heavy things that are holding you back. What is it that can boost your energy? When you want to move a car, some of these supercars, you hear their engine rev when you put your foot on the accelerator. So similarly, what is it that you can treat like revving your engine? Now, when I do my course, my Harness Your Strengths for Business Success course, I give many, many examples of how you can rev up your engine as an introvert to achieve those things. Then the other concept I want to introduce here is how you can push yourself. So it's a slightly different from boost, in the sense that we always say that the extroverts tend to have pull energy and the introverts have push energy. But what is push and how do you identify that? So, the push or pull effect, a pull system initiates production as a reaction to present demand. So, if, for example, you have, like we've talked about, having a thermostat now. So, um, you kind of have a pull system uh that takes but the thermometer is one that takes the temperature, so that's a pull system. So it kind of, what it does is react to the present conditions, right? But then a pull system sorry, a push system. So pull reacts to present conditions, and that is a thermometer. Yeah, it will take the current temperature. But then a push system is one that initiates production in anticipation of future demand. So that is a thermostat. And so that's why I started off with saying, what's your capacity, that thermostat that you're setting? If you want to increase your capacity, you go and you push the dial. So you push the dial, and when you push the dial, you're doing that in anticipation of the future demand. So, and your ambition is that future demand. You demand from yourself more through push energy, push effect. So what are the ways that you can dial things up? I see a coach as a catalyst, as somebody who can help you with that push effect to help you dial things up even more. So, the last but not the least one that you need, and I say this all the time because I talk about courageous leadership, is courage. And courage here does not always mean courage to go fast, it can mean that for a certain period, because for most people, especially if you're introverted and you get overstimulated quickly, the speed can be a problem. Going too fast too quickly makes your nervous system to be on edge, and that's what causes the overstimulation. That's what causes the energy drain and burnout. So what you want to have courage for is courage to go slow and steady. As they say, slow and steady can still win the race. Courage to reduce the exposure to overstimulating environments and situations. So for me as well, I began to realize after I lost my loved ones, the workplace became very uncomfortable for me to process my emotions. I asked for time off, but it felt like I never really wanted to come back. And this was before COVID, obviously. So the work at home was not very common. I did ask to work from home a lot. And I kept finding that when I go back into the office, there was still struggle. I had a lot to process, a lot of trauma to process. It wasn't a good space for me to come into the office and process it. So it was an environment that was triggering, overstimulating, and distressing. And so ask yourself the courage to ask, am I in an environment that is facilitating my ability to increase my energy or to develop and fulfill my ambitions? Courage to set boundaries and protect yourself. So you want to effectively have the courage to know how to stretch. One of the things I have done more recently that I feel has been beneficial in my life is really slowing down, and slowing down and being present in the moment, and giving myself permission to just be present, to just do things at my pace, to also discover that pace. So that is why I'm telling you, what's my capacity, what's my pace, what's my speed, how can I increase that capability? And when I've done that, I'm beginning to do things differently, and that is creating better expertise. So courage to be yourself and own your introversion is the vital ingredient that you need. So that's it. I just wanted to share these tips and to encourage you to know how you can increase your energy levels to succeed in an extroverted world. You might not be able to change the world, but you can change your internal capability, your internal capacity. You can develop that you can change and introduce catalyst into your life, that adaptability, and you can have the courage to protect what matters most so that you can be, do, and have more. So I believe that knowing your capacity for stimulus as an introvert is vital. Building your capability to thrive in what you do is essential to achieving your ambitions. Initiating and managing change to achieve your goals is very important. And then courage to make space to harness your introvert strengths and create holistic success is what we need every day. So, leading your life. So, these are the keys to me to increasing your energy levels to succeed in an extroverted world. So, I want to leave you with with just a nice quote by the author of Quiet, Susan Cain. And she says, stay true to your nature. If you like to do things in a slow and steady way, don't let others make you feel as if you have to race. If you enjoy depth, don't force yourself to seek breadth. Let me read that again because that's vital to remember. Stay true to your own nature. If you like to do things in a slow and steady way, don't let others make you feel as if you have to race. If you enjoy depth, don't force yourself to seek breadth. So, this is by Susan Kane, and this is for me a nice way to finish off this episode where we're talking about how introverts can increase energy levels to succeed in an extroverted world. So also check out the notes and take my Navigate Overwhelm Like a Pro quiz, because one of the challenges that comes obviously from being overstimulated is getting overwhelmed. So which areas of your business, which areas of your journey are you being feeling overwhelmed more than the rest? You can figure that out by taking this quiz, and the links are in the notes. So until next time, I want you to remember to own your introvert strengths, trust your journey, and let that inner introverted leader in you come up and shine and help you to achieve holistic success. Take care, stay safe, God bless. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Quietly Confident Introverts. If you found today's discussion valuable, please subscribe, rate, review, and share the podcast with others. You can also connect with me, Patience Ogunbona, at the Visionary Introverted Woman. Until next time, stay confidently introverted.